Inspiring billionaire discovers 4 lost kids in a snowstorm. What happens next is incredible. Jack Reynolds stood at the edge of Maplewood, where once he had raced his bike and played in the fields. Now it was unrecognizable, shrouded in a fierce blizzard that raged like an uninvited reminder of his own stubborn detachment. The familiar streets were empty, save for a few snow-covered cars, and the warmth of community that had once filled this town seemed frozen in time. Guilt knotted in his gut. A billionaire now, he felt the weight of his success dulling the bright memories of his childhood in a modest home, where his immigrant parents instilled the values of community and hard work. Underneath the swirling snowflakes, the town was preparing for the annual charity event honoring local veterans. But the storm hit hard, and chaos erupted when it was discovered that 4 children had wandered off, drawn away by curiosity amid the festivities. Panic washed over Jack as he heard the frantic whispers ripple through the remaining guests, mothers clutching their children closer as they grasped the severity of the situation. These were children whose laughter echoed memories of his own youth, memories he had long left behind. His heart pounded frantically as a sense of responsibility ignited within him, the same responsibility his parents had taught him. "Everyone, we need to search for them," Jack called, his voice slicing through the howling wind. Faces turned toward him, eyes wide with surprise, but as the blizzard swirled, an unspoken bond began to form. Villagers rallied, stepping into the storm together, their collective shoulders bearing the weight of worry. Jack felt alive, the stark contrast of wealth and struggle unfolding like pages in a story he thought he'd long outgrown. Even as the situation spiraled into a desperate search through the icy streets, Jack found himself facing unsettling realizations. Each neighbor he encountered, a single mother, a retired veteran, a struggling farmer, carried stories of sacrifice and dreams buried beneath the harsh realities of life. They were vibrant spirits, not just statistics of a forgotten town. He recognized in their eyes the same longing he felt, a connection that reached beyond his years away. Every person he met reminded him of the importance of community, of the spirit that had once filled Maplewood with laughter and support. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just when hope began to dim, a glimmer of understanding struck him. The children, they weren't lost. They were filled with ambitions, dreams, and talents yearning for a chance to shine. Jack saw their faces in his mind, the bright-eyed little ones he admired from a distance, now imbued with the burdens of their lives. He felt a tension pulse through his chest. The values he thought he had mastered were under scrutiny. While he had amassed riches, they embodied something deeper, a humility, an untapped worth that his success could never measure. As the winds howled louder, Jack stood at a crossroads, separated from the very ideals that had once fueled his ambitions. Outside, the storm raged on, yet the warmth of camaraderie began to flicker. If he opened himself up to the town that he had neglected, could he find his way back? Could he find worth beyond his wealth? As voices called through the storm, the first hints of hope swirled around him, the answer to his quiet question waiting just beyond the snow-covered horizon. Would he rise to meet the challenge or remain a distant shadow of who he used to be? Jack felt a surge of energy swelling in his chest, unearthing feelings he had thought were buried beneath years of ambition and isolation. He was standing in the very town that witnessed his childhood dreams and fears. A cold wind whipped around him, but the warmth from the gathering crowd ignited a spark within. Friends and neighbors huddled together, an amalgamation of determination and love, banded by their urgency to find those kids. "Let us split into teams," he suggested, his voice carrying over the swirling snow. He felt their eyes on him, hesitance clinging to the air like the frost on their jackets. "I'll take the west side." He noted many looked unsure, They were comfortable in their roles within the community but not ready for someone like him to take charge. "We can do this together." The conviction in his voice brought a wavering smile to the lips of a few onlookers. Moments later, they fanned out into the blinding storm, a ragtag search party navigated by the flickering glow of shared purpose. Jack trudged through the snow, every step sinking into the cold blanket while his heart raced. He pictured those children full of life and laughter trapped in the storm's icy grasp. The thought drove him forward, igniting memories of himself as a boy battling the winter chill racing with friends. As Jack reached a small copse of trees, he heard faint giggles entwined in the howl of the wind. His heart leaped. Could it be? He quickened his pace towards the sound, pushing past the branches that sought to hold him back. This was not just a search to him. It was an opportunity to bridge the chasm he had created between himself and the town. "Hello?" he called out, his voice raw and desperate against the howling storm. The giggles stopped, and a silence filled the air. Then, a timid response cut through. "Over here." A rush of relief washed over him as he followed the sound, peering through the snowy branches. There they were, 4 small figures huddled together, their faces aglow with the innocence that captivated his heart. They were drenched in snow but safe, a testament to childhood imagination in a harsh landscape. "Jack!" shouted one of them, a girl with bright red mittens stuck out of an old coat. "We found the biggest snowball ever. But then, we got lost." "I'm so glad you're here," he replied, weaving through the trees, wanting nothing more than to wrap them in warmth. But then he noticed something. Their cheeks were flushed, yes, but their eyes held a glimpse of fear that lit a fire of urgency within him. "Let us get you all home," he urged gently, bending down to reassure them. "We've got to stick together." As they gathered around him, he felt the weight of responsibility wrap around him like a shield. The past years of isolation melted away in that moment, replaced by the hope fluttering in their eyes. Using his phone to light the way, they began walking back, forming a small group so tightly knotted together it felt unbreakable. In the distance he heard shouts, voices calling. "Jack! There! We found them!" His heart buoyed as they drew nearer to the edge of the road, a beacon of safety glowing against the storm. When they emerged, the crowd erupted in joyous relief, their faces radiant against the darkness. Jack felt their gratitude wash over him. But it was more than just relief, it was recognition. He stood tall, not as a billionaire hovering over a forgotten town, but as part of something much greater. But as cheers echoed in his ears, so did another thought. This was just the beginning. As layers of ice thawed, could he become the leader Maplewood needed, not just today, but for the many tomorrows? There was a vast horizon to explore, a community to reconnect with, and a redefined purpose waiting just beyond the storm. Would he step into that new role? As Jack clasped a tiny hand in his, he felt the shift within himself, the decision lingering in the air like the last snowflake falling from the sky. Would he embrace this journey toward redemption? Jack felt like a hero in that moment, surrounded by the jubilant crowd who had come together in solidarity. Each cheer buoyed his spirit, but a lingering doubt crept in. Sure, saving those kids was a monumental step, but what did it mean for him? He was a stranger in a familiar land, a distant presence, cast away from his own past. Could he truly stitch himself back into the fabric of Maplewood? As the crowd began to disperse, relief still clinging in the air, the little girl with the red mittens stepped forward. "Are you going to come back and play with us?" she asked, her voice small but full of hope. Jack felt his heart tug. Playing? That was something he hadn't done in years. I'd love to," he stammered, the honesty in his tone surprising him. She beamed, and Jack realized that the warmth that had ignited inside him earlier wasn't just about finding the children, it was about reconnecting with the innocent joy he had abandoned. The girl turned to join her friends but paused, looking back. "Promise? I promise?" He nodded, and the way her face lit up made him feel a sense of belonging he hadn't experienced in ages. With the urgency of the search now fading, Jack felt the weight of reality settling back on his shoulders. This encounter had cast a light on something larger than himself. The warmth of community, The laughter of children, could he really become a part of that? Jack. A familiar voice cut through his thoughts. It was Sarah, his childhood friend and a cornerstone of the community. She rushed toward him, her cheeks flushed from both the cold and excitement. You were amazing out there. How did you feel so sure? Her praise swirled around him, heady and intoxicating. It was them, he admitted, gesturing toward the kids who were now bundled up and laughing with other children nearby. For the first time in years I felt alive, connected. That's what Maplewood is, Sarah exclaimed, her eyes sparkling like the snowflakes surrounding them. But we need leaders who stay, who fight for our future. Are you ready to step up? Jack felt a swell of adrenaline surge through him. The idea swirled in his mind like snowflakes caught in the wind. But doubts wormed their way back. I've been gone so long, Sarah. What if they don't want me? They want you here today. You don't understand how much this town needs hope. Jack, they're looking for guidance, and you've already shown you can provide that. He considered her words, the weight of his own feelings pressing against him, fear and excitement. I have a lot to atone for, he said softly. That's the journey. Starts with this. Her hand found its way to his arm, squeezing gently. Together we can make a difference. Jack took a breath, letting it roll around inside him. Could he be more than just a second chance? Could he help reshape the community he had once tread so lightly over? Let us do it, he finally declared, a new determination settling in his chest. The warmth in Sarah's smile mirrored the rekindled flame within him. But just as quickly, it flickered. His phone buzzed in his pocket, breaking the moment. Pulling it out, he saw a message that sent a chill down his spine. We need to talk. It's important, call me. As the sunset bled into deeper shades of blue, he weighed the excitement of his newfound purpose against the mystery of that message. What could it mean? Jack turned to Sarah, his heart racing. I think I might have stumbled upon something way bigger than just this town. I need to find out what this is. Sarah raised her brow, curiosity piqued. What do you mean? His mind raced as he thought about the implications. I need to see if my past has unfinished business. This could impact Maplewood in ways I can't even imagine. As the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, Jack felt poised at the edge of a precipice, ready to leap into an unknown future filled with both promise and uncertainty. Would he be able to face whatever came next? The night settled in, thick with anticipation. Jack clenched his phone tightly, the message reflecting the uncertainty of his past. He could almost hear the weight of the words hanging in the air, a pull to something lurking just out of reach. Hey, what's up? Sarah asked, reading the shift in his expression. Jack hesitated, his mind racing. The past 2 years loomed large, filled with regret and decisions that had led him away from Maplewood. It's a friend from my old life. They need, I don't know, guidance? Closure? He took a breath, feeling the details spiral. I haven't been in touch since I moved. Maybe they want something I'm not ready to face? But what if they know about all the things you regret? You can't let that stop you now. Sarah's voice was firm, grounding. You're not that person anymore. You're here. You're doing something good. Jack nodded, but the anxiety bubbled beneath his resolve. He glanced back toward the children, still playing under the streetlights, their laughter like music. They were innocent, untouched by the ghosts of the past. He wanted to protect that joy, but how could he do it when shadows loomed behind him? I appreciate your support, Sarah, but I can't just ignore this. I owe it to myself to see what they want. As if summoning it with his words, his phone buzzed again. This time it was a call. Jack's heart raced. He glanced at Sarah. I should take this. She nodded, concern etched in her features, as if she wanted to reach out, to stop him from diving into whatever lay ahead. Hello? Jack said, trying to keep his voice steady. Jack, it's Emily. Her voice broke slightly, and he could hear her struggling to keep it together. Emily? What's going on? It's about Mom. There's something you need to know. Panic gripped him. He had avoided thinking about his family for so long, burying the past under layers of choice and change. What about her? She's been looking for you. We think she's in trouble. The urgency in her tone sliced through him. You need to come back to help us. Jack's stomach twisted. He had left for a reason, a fresh start away from the hurt and pain that seemed to follow him. Now, with this one call, everything felt at risk. Is it bad? He asked, his throat dry. It might be worse than you think. I wouldn't have called if it weren't urgent. He glanced at Sarah, who was listening intently, reading his face like an open book. Okay, I'll be there. Just tell me when and where. As he hung up, the clarity of purpose returned alongside an overwhelming weight. I have to go back. And I have to figure this out. What did she say? Sarah's voice was steady, supportive. They need me. Jack swallowed hard. But I'm scared that going back means facing everything I tried to leave behind. What if I fail them again? You won, T. You've changed, Jack. You're stronger now and you can help. Remember what happened today in the park. You saved those kids. You can save your family too. Jack felt that flicker of hope again, a spark igniting the darkness of doubt. You're right. I have to be part of their lives again. But deep down, anxiety gripped him tightly. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with shadows from a past he wasn't sure he could confront. I'm scared, Sarah. Terrified. Then let us face it together, she said. You're not alone. As that promise hung in the air, Jack turned toward the town, ready for whatever would unfold. But as they walked, his phone buzzed one last time, another message. This one from an unknown number. Be careful, Jack. They know you're back. Panic surged again. What did this mean? Were more threads of his past unspooling, threatening to tangle with his future? As the chill of the night seeped deeper, Jack shivered. He had wanted adventure, challenge, purpose. But what he hadn't signed up for was danger lurking in the shadows. Could he truly keep Maplewood safe while grappling with the chaos of his past? A sense of impending confrontation hung in the air, and with a lump in his throat, he whispered, "What have I gotten myself into?" Jack felt the weight of that message like a stone in his gut. It was a warning, and somehow he knew it wasn't just a random coincidence. Something was off in the air. The night didn't feel safe anymore. Worry crept in, shadowing his thoughts, as he glanced sideways at Sarah. Her face spoke volumes. There was fear behind her encouraging smile. What does it mean? She asked gently, but her eyes searched his for answers he didn't have. I don't know, he admitted, gripping his phone as if it were a lifeline. But it feels like I'm being pulled back into a world I fought so hard to escape. Then let us not wait, Sarah urged. Let us get ahead of this. Jack nodded, but his heart was heavy. He had been running toward a new life, one filled with laughter and hope, a chance to replace the darkness he left behind. Now it threatened to swallow him whole. They walked back to Jack's car slowly, each step heavier than the last. As they drove through Maplewood, neon lights from diners and bars flickered in the night, illuminating the streets he thought he had left behind. Each corner brought memories, fragments of who he used to be. It was haunting. Are you ready for this? Sarah asked, breaking the silence. I don't think I'll ever be ready, he sighed. But I can't stick my head in the sand either. I owe it to Emily and Mom. The drive felt long, filled with uncertainty. Every bump in the road echoed the stumbling blocks of his past, the missed opportunities, the broken promises. They arrived at his childhood home. Its familiar facade now seemed foreign. The front yard that once hosted countless summers now stood still, as if waiting for him. As they stepped out of the car, Jack took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. The door creaked open, revealing Emily's worried figure framed in the dim light of the entryway. She looked older, more worn than he remembered, and his heart sank. Jack, you came. Relief flooded her gaze, even as worry still clung to her features. Tell me what's going on, he said, urgency filling his voice. Mom's been acting strange. She barely speaks, and when she does, it's not like her. Emily looked down, the pain evident. I think she's hiding something. You have to help her, Jack. We really need you. Jack felt the pull tightening around him. He wasn't prepared for this. What if she doesn't want to see me? What if I'm not the person she needs? You're her son, Emily said, her eyes fierce with determination. And I know she wants you here. You've always been the one who kept the family together. He hesitated, the shadows whispering doubts in his ear. But in that moment, he felt a flicker of warmth, a promise of connection. Before he could respond, a sudden flash of movement caught his eye from the corner of his vision. A figure slipped away from the house next door, disappearing into the dark. Jack's instincts flared. Did you see that? His voice was low, urgent. What? Emily stepped forward, her brow furrowing. That someone just left. Could be nothing, but Jack trailed off, fear gripping him again. Something was wrong, and the message haunted him still. We have to go in, he said, locking eyes with Sarah, who nodded decisively. There's more going on here than you know. As they entered the house, Jack's heart raced. The air felt thicker, charged with tension. Could he really help his family when it seemed everything was trying to pull them apart? What other secrets were buried here? And who was watching them from the shadows? He took a step forward, steeling himself for a confrontation that loomed just beyond reach. Would facing his past finally bring the healing his family needed, or would it push them deeper into darkness? And as he crossed the threshold, the weight of uncertainty hung in the air, leaving unanswered questions clamoring for resolution. Would he be their savior or their downfall? Inside the house, the familiar sense of home surrounded Jack like an embrace, faint traces of old coffee and the lingering sweetness of birthday cakes past. But instead of comfort, they heightened his anxiety. He felt trapped between the life he had made and the one he thought he had left behind. Where's Mom? He asked, voice steady but edged with urgency. In her room, Emily replied, her eyes darkening with worry. I think she has been retreating more and more lately. Jack nodded, but the ache in his chest grew. He turned to Sarah. Can you stay here? Of course, she said, her gaze reassuring, even as her expression revealed her own unease. Jack swallowed hard and made his way up the staircase. Each step creaked under his weight, echoing the doubts scrabbling in his mind. What if his mother was too far gone? What if the woman he loved had slipped away, leaving only a shadow? He reached her bedroom door and hesitated. Memories flooded back, an old life filled with bedtime stories and warm hugs. With a shaking hand, he knocked lightly. Mom? His voice caught. There was no answer. He opened the door, revealing a dimly lit room. The curtains were drawn shut, casting everything in muted shadows. His mother, barely recognizable, sat on the edge of the bed, staring blankly at the floor. She looked up, her eyes dull and distant. Jack? She whispered, confusion flickering across her features. Hey, Mom. It's me, he said softly, stepping inside. The door closed behind him like a closing curtain, isolating them from the rest of the world. He took a tentative step forward. What's going on? Emily said you've been different. Her gaze drifted past him, as if searching for something that was no longer there. Different? She echoed, almost to herself. He took another step closer now. We're worried about you, Jack said, struggling to keep the desperation from his voice. Please talk to me. Finally, she seemed to focus on him, really look at him. Jack, you don't understand. Her voice trembled. Sometimes it's easier not to feel anything at all. His heart sank further. But we're here. We can help you. You don't have to go through this alone. Tears brimmed in her eyes, and for a moment, Jack saw a flicker of the mom he used to know. I'm scared of what you'll find if you dig deeper, she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. I don't know if I can face that. Mom, whatever it is, we'll face it together, he urged, reaching for her hand. She hesitated but eventually let him take it. It was cold and brittle, a stark reminder of the distance that had grown between them. That connection sparked hope, a tentative thread weaving them back together. I need to know, he said more firmly. What are you hiding from us? What happened? As his words hung in the air, a loud knock shook the front door, echoing through the stillness of the house. Jack's heart raced anew. The urgency flooded back, raw and primal. Stay here, he instructed his mother, glancing toward the door. No, she cried, gripping his arm with surprising strength. Don't answer it, Jack. Please, I'm begging you. Her fear wrapped around him like a chilling fog, and he stopped, torn between the woman he loved and the emerging shadows that threatened to unravel everything. Mom, he said low and steady, I have to know what's going on. Stay with me. I won't let anything happen to you. But just as he opened the door ajar, a figure loomed outside, cloaked in darkness. Jack's breath caught in his throat, and the weight of dread settled back over him. Who had come knocking at this critical moment? Hello? A shaky voice broke the stillness. It was a young woman he didn't recognize, eyes wide with fear. I need your help. Something terrible has happened. As her words spiraled into the room, Jack's heart sank with the ominous realization that the night held deeper secrets than he had prepared for. What had this stranger brought to their doorstep? Would Jack's fight to heal his family pull them further into the storm? The young woman stood before Jack, her body tense and trembling. He could see it in her eyes, the raw panic mixed with desperation. The shadows in the hallway crept closer as the night thickened. What happened? Jack urged, forcing himself to sound calm. She glanced nervously over her shoulder, as if fearing something or someone was watching her. There's a storm, and I was driving. There are kids, 4 of them. Her voice broke, and tears welled in her eyes. I don't know what to do. I could barely get away, but they need help. Jack's heart raced. Kids? Where are they? Are they hurt? No, but they're lost. I was on my way to help. I saw them wandering in the snow. I thought someone would have been looking for them, but she took a shaky breath. I couldn't just leave them there. I need to go back, but I can't do it alone. Jack glanced back at his mother, still in her shadowy cocoon, and then at the young woman's terrified face. He felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This was bigger than his own fears. Okay, he said, his voice shaky but resolute. I'll go with you. We'll find them together. Jack, no. His mother's voice pierced through the dimness of the room. You can't. You don't know what's out there. What if something happens to you? You can't risk it. There was a rawness in her tone, a protective instinct born from deep-seated fear. But Jack's resolve only deepened. If those kids are out there, vulnerable in the storm, I can't just sit by and do nothing. He turned to the young woman. Take me to them. Are you sure? She asked, hesitating. More than anything, he said firmly. Let us go. Emily appeared at the top of the stairs, worry etched on her face. What's going on? Jack, please. Their mother pleaded again, gripping the edge of the bed as if that had the power to ground her. There are kids lost in a snowstorm, he replied, urgency spilling from each word. I can't let them stay out there. I have to help. Please understand. With a heavy heart, she let out a shaky breath, the lines on her face deepening with worry. Okay. But take this, Emily said, rushing down the stairs. She handed Jack a flashlight and a heavy coat. You'll need these. Thanks, Emily, he said, pulling the coat on. Stay here with Mom. I'll be back, I promise. He stepped back into the cold reality of the evening, the chill wrapping around him, igniting his senses. The young woman led the way, her urgency guiding them through twisted pathways of frozen grass and spots of treacherous ice. As they moved, Jack felt a shift within him, a desire to protect not just his mother but now these children, their pain, their vulnerability fueling his determination. I didn't get their names, he said as they trudged on. Do you know anything about them? She shook her head. Just that they were crying. They looked so small, so lost, her voice trailed off, caught in a wave of shame or fear. Each step seemed to draw them deeper into the night, the bite of the cold mingling with the warmth of his growing resolve. He wouldn't let this moment slip away. The wind whistled through the trees, carrying a distant sound, a muffled cry. Jack froze, his heart pounding. Did you hear that? He asked. The young woman stopped, eyes wide. It's coming from over there. She pointed toward the thick edge of the woods, a tangle of branches and dark secrets. Kids, Jack yelled, his voice cutting through the night. We're coming. Just hold on. The darkness loomed ahead, but within it lay hope, a flicker of lives waiting to be saved. The storm was intensifying, the snow swirling as if to block their path, But Jack charged forward, fueled by a fierce urgency. What would they find in the abyss ahead? Would he discover not just the children, but also the parts of himself he feared might be lost forever? Jack's feet pounded against the ground as they pushed deeper into the snow-laden woods. Every step felt like it took forever, as if the earth itself was trying to keep them from moving forward. The dim light of his flashlight danced wildly over the trees, illuminating gnarled branches and drifts of pure white. But the beams struggled against the dark nothingness surrounding them. "Stay close," he warned, glancing back at the young woman who matched his frantic pace. They both felt the pull of that muffled cry, desperate and haunting. "Do you think they're okay?" she called out, her breath visible in the frigid air, trembling like the hope in her voice. Jack swallowed hard. "They have to be," he said, forcing certainty into his words. "They're kids. They must be scared. We just have to reach them." The air carried the scent of wet earth and pine, mingled with something else, fear, perhaps, or the dire vulnerability of the unknown. Each gust of wind seemed to whisper warnings, yet Jack's determination pushed any trepidation deep inside his chest. Ahead, the muffled cries grew louder, twisting into desperate calls. "Help! Help! Almost there!" he shouted, adrenaline surging through him. He rushed forward, the thudding of his heart matching the intensity of his resolve. The trees began to thin, and just beyond, he could see a faint shape through the veil of swirling snow. "Kids!" he yelled again, scanning the area frantically. Emerging into a small clearing, he spotted them, 4 small figures huddled together, their faces pinched against the cold. 2 of them were wrapped in tattered coats, while the other 2 clung to old backpacks, a mismatched collection of lost toys perhaps. They bobbed in the snow, eyes wide with panic as they cast nervous glances toward the storm brewing at their backs. "It's okay. We're here," Jack called out, his voice steadying, reassuring. As they approached, the children's faces flickered under the beam of the flashlight, confusion mingling with relief etched across their tiny, frost-bitten features. The oldest, a girl, took a cautious step forward. Are you going to help us?" "Yes." The young woman beside Jack exhaled, breaking into a warm smile that instantly softened the moment. "We came to bring you back. You're safe now." Jack marveled at her vulnerability, the glow of hope now shimmering in her eyes. They were all in this together. He knelt before the children, adjusting his coat to shield them from the chill. "What happened? Where are your parents?" The girl's voice trembled. "We were at the cabin, and we wanted to play in the snow, but then it got dark and we got lost." Jack's heart clenched. "Let us get you back to safety," he urged, standing up, already scanning the path behind them. But the wind lashed at him, carrying an ominous howl. The storm wasn't just a flurry, it was a tempest, ready to swallow them whole. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the woods, and Jack stumbled back. "Stay close," he shouted, gathering the kids against him and the young woman. An uneasy calm settled as the weight of the moment pressed heavily on them. They had to move before the storm descended. "Where do we go?" the woman whispered, unease creeping into her voice. Jack's mind raced. He thought of the small, familiar path. "We head back the way we came. I remember it. Just stick together. We'll be back in no time." As they turned, the whispers of the storm grew louder, churning whispers of doubt mixed with the howls of the wind. Would the path truly lead them home? And what dangers still lay ahead in the shadows of the storm? With every step, uncertainty clung to Jack like the snow still falling, thickening the air around them. The echoes of that crack, the howls of the wind, it was a wild race against time, a desperate scramble for safety. "Let us go," he urged, pushing forward, heart pounding, ready to face whatever the storm might throw their way. But as the shadows closed in around them, the wind seemed to cry out, a chilling premonition swirling in the air. What unseen peril awaited them within the storm? Jack led the small group, adrenaline fueling his resolve. The weight of the children's fear felt palpable against the relentless wind, but Jack pushed ahead, his flashlight illuminating the snow-draped path that twisted before them. Every gust was a reminder of how quickly the elements could turn against them. Just a little further, he called out, trying to inject confidence into his wavering voice. The kids huddled closer, their tiny bodies pressing against his legs for warmth, while the young woman brought up the rear, casting nervous glances over her shoulder. Suddenly, the screaming wind fell silent for a moment, creating an eerie stillness that wrapped around them like fog. It was as if the world was holding its breath. But then, a deep rumble echoed through the trees, and Jack froze in place, his instincts screaming at him. He turned to the children, urgency flashing in his eyes. "We need to move faster." As they started moving again, anxiety twisted Jack's gut. The path began to rise, steepening alongside a slope. The snow was deep, and with every step, it felt like they were being sucked into the ground itself. Strain settled in Jack's legs, but he pushed through. Their safe return was all that mattered. He glanced back at the young woman beside him. "We need to stay focused. No distractions," he said, trying to calm his thoughts while tension hung thick around them. "I'm trying," she replied, looking drained but fierce, determination etched into her features. "But what if we can't make it?" Jack felt a surge of warmth at her fear, a flicker of shared understanding. "We will," he said firmly, giving her a reassuring look. The shaking in his heart begged to differ, but he couldn't let that show. As they crested the ridge, Jack's breath hitched in his throat. Below them lay a small, familiar cabin, its windows still glowing faintly through the thickening snow. "There, that's the cabin. We can make it." The children cheered weakly, hope blooming in their tiny chests, spurred on by Jack's unwavering conviction. Their tiny feet began to pound over the fresh snow, but just as they descended, the wind howled once more, roaring back to life with unearthly ferocity. "Jack!" the woman cried, her voice barely audible over the tempest. "We have to hurry." Without warning, a deafening crack split the air. The ground beneath them trembled. A weighty branch from an overhead tree buckled under the weight of the snow, snapping off with lethal speed. Jack turned just in time to see it plummet down toward the earth, right where the children had been. "Get down!" he shouted, lunging forward, flinging himself over the kids, shielded only by his arms. The branch crashed into the snow beside them, sending fresh powder flying into the air. Jack winced, his heart racing. The kids were safe. He could feel their little bodies pressed tightly against him, shaking with fear. Then, the young woman stood beside him, expression fiery yet shaken. "We can't keep going like this." "Just a bit further," Jack insisted, feeling the pulse of urgency drown out all rational thought. "We can't stop now. We are so close to the cabin." As if to challenge his resolve, the storm unleashed another wave of snow, swirling blindly around them. Visibility dropped, and Jack could feel the darkness creeping back in, the shadows battling against his fleeting flicker of hope. He scanned the area, focusing on the outline of the cabin. "Stick together. We're almost there." But doubt coiled around him, squeezing tighter with each passing second. Would they make it before the storm took them? Would this wicked tempest swallow him whole along with the frightened souls he sought to protect? "Where do we go?" one of the children whimpered, eyes wide and teary. Jack took a breath, grounding himself in the gravity of the moment. "Follow my voice. Just keep going." Each heartbeat felt monstrous, every moment stretched forever. But just as deep shadows threatened to swallow them up, Jack noticed something, a faint glow breaking through the chaos of the storm. A light. "Do you see that?" he shouted, heart racing with hope. "That's the cabin. Keep moving." But the wind seemed to laugh, a dark taunt that danced around them. Would they reach it in time, or was the storm only beginning to reveal its true, frigid power? Jack pushed ahead with fierce determination, the glimmer of hope beckoning from the cabin like a lighthouse in the fog. Behind him, he could hear the children's soft breaths mingling with the howling wind. They were scared, and he felt that fear resonate deep within himself. "Just a little more," he shouted, forcing his legs to carry him over the snow that seemed intent on holding him back. Each step was a battle against the elements, but the light grew closer. He felt the warmth of purpose flooding into his heart, igniting a flicker of strength he thought he had lost long ago. The cabin door swung open, silhouetted against the glow, revealing a figure standing inside. It was Emily, her expression a mix of relief and concern. "Jack, thank goodness," she cried, gesturing for them to hurry inside. Jack scooped up the smallest child in his arms, urging the rest inside. The warmth washed over them like a cozy blanket enveloping his weary body. They stumbled into a room filled with flickering shadows and the soft crackle of a fire, the scent of cedar and warmth mingling in the air. The children were shivering, their small frames trembling as they huddled together. Jack looked into their eyes, swirling with fear and gratitude. "You're safe now," he whispered, feeling a rush of emotion welling within. "Jack!" Emily exclaimed, rushing to his side, wrapping her arms around him, the worry for him melting into relief. "I was worried sick. What happened out there?" "The storm," he said, glancing out the window at the swirling white chaos. "But we found them. They were so scared." As the young woman entered, her eyes sparkled with gratitude. "We did it together," she said, radiating warmth and hope. Just then, a soft voice broke the tension. "Are we going home?" one of the children asked, eyes wide and trusting. "Not yet," Jack said gently, kneeling before them. "But you're safe here, and we'll figure it out together." Their expressions shifted from fear to a delicate blend of resilience and comfort. The warmth of the cabin enveloped them all in a cocoon of safety, and Jack felt a reconnection blossoming within him, a bridge mending the gap he had thought would never close. "Mom!" Emily shouted suddenly, recalling their parent who had been the backdrop to their struggles. Jack's heart sank momentarily. He had left her alone. "We need to check on her," he said, the urgency renewed. Leaving the children in the safety of the cabin, he and Emily stepped back outside, bracing themselves against the storm again, but this time with shared purpose. "Jack, I'm worried about her," Emily said quietly, her eyes filled with concern. "What if the storm will get her?" Jack said firmly, determination setting his jaw. "She needs us now more than ever." As they navigated the familiar route back to the house, the wind howled, but each step felt lighter. Jack knew they could confront whatever awaited them. They were not just running from their past. They were racing to reclaim it. Finally, they reached the house, the door creaking open under his touch. "Mom!" Jack called out, his voice slicing through the silence that had settled like a lingering shadow. In the dim light, he found his mother sitting on the edge of her bed, eyes dulled with confusion but flickering with a hint of recognition. "Jack?" she murmured, a mixture of hope and disbelief in her tone. "I'm here, Mom," he said, inching closer. "We need to talk. I want to help you." Tears pooled in her eyes, and she opened her mouth to speak but nothing came out. Instead, the anguish of years of separation bubbled up, and for the first time, Jack realized how deeply he had missed her. "It's okay," he said gently, reaching out to take her trembling hands in his. "I promise I won't leave you again. We'll face this together." Releasing a shuddering breath, she said, "You've come back. I was afraid, Mom. I'm not that boy who ran away. I'm ready to face whatever it is we've been avoiding," he vowed, feeling a wave of courage rushing through him. As they shared this pivotal moment, the house rumbled with wind, but inside the walls, a warm resilience began to grow. In that space, Jack felt the warmth of community radiating through his family. The promise of healing resonated within him, igniting hope like bringing light into the deepest of darkness. Outside, the storm raged, but Jack knew they wouldn't be tackling the future alone anymore. They were fighting for each other now. In the following days, as the storm passed and the sun emerged, Jack helped his mother reconnect, teaching her to face her past with him, step by step, as each child brought new laughter and light into their home. He wanted to remind her of the strength of family, of the bond that couldn't be severed by life's tempests. Together, they rebuilt not just a home, but a future with love, hope, and connection as the foundation. Jack looked around and felt a wave of gratitude. The community had once again rallied, giving him the chance to fight for more than just himself. He was fighting for the very essence of Maplewood. As the town began to heal, Jack understood that his journey was only beginning. Each step would require courage, vulnerability, and an unwavering commitment to those he loved. But this time he wasn't afraid. The storm revealed to him that together, they could weather anything after all. In the eye of every storm lies the promise of a brighter dawn. And just as the final magical light illuminated Maplewood, Jack emerged, ready to lead, ready to love, and ready to fully embrace the community he had once overlooked. As he stepped forward, arms wide open to embrace whatever came next, he felt peace settle into the core of his being. This was his home. They were his family. And now, he was ready to protect them like they had always deserved. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover this uplifting journey. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending below. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.